Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're doing something really cool. We're going to unlock what I like to call the ultimate communicator's toolkit. We're taking things that usually just look like standard grammar and composition rules, and we're transforming them into literal, real-world superpowers. Seriously, we're talking about mastering time, space, and action. So let's just dive right into it.
To get there, here's our roadmap for today. First, we'll master time with tenses. Second, we'll manipulate space through vivid descriptions. Third, we'll look at driving action with persuasion. And finally, we'll put it all to the test. Let's get started. All right, Section 1. Controlling the timeline, the mechanics of tenses. Let's jump right into how we actually control time.
You know, how we use tenses completely dictates how our audience experiences a moment. Just look at this quick comparison. The simple past, like, I lost my pen yesterday, is definitive, right? The action is 100% finished. But the past continuous, he was reading a newspaper when I entered the room, subtly but powerfully paints a picture of an action that was already in motion when a second event interrupted it. You're not just giving facts here, you're actively directing the viewer's focus within a timeline.
And this beautifully illustrates what happens when timelines get a bit more complicated. Enter the past perfect tense. The source material aptly calls it the before tense, which is a great way to think about it. Notice how it establishes an absolutely airtight chronological order. Point 1, the lesson begins. Point 2, we arrive. Saying the lesson had begun when we arrived ensures your reader never gets lost in the past. It keeps everything neat and tidy.
Now, what if we project into the future? The future continuous tense allows us to capture an activity that will be ongoing. For example, he will be flying across the Sahara at 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. We aren't just saying he will fly. We are literally picking the reader up and dropping them right in the middle of that continuous action tomorrow. The big takeaway here is that tenses aren't just rigid, boring rules. They're vital tools to accurately plot our narratives on a timeline.
Moving right along to Section 2. Painting with words, the artistry of space. We've conquered time, so now let's see how we manipulate space to make our readers truly see, hear, and feel what we're describing.
Our source provides a pretty straightforward definition of describing, to tell about the features of a person, place, or thing. Sounds simple enough, right? Well, the actual execution relies entirely on careful, almost microscopic observation. You really have to push past what you just casually see at a passing glance.
Because to give your writing real depth and power, you've got to engage all the senses. It's about being intensely observant. Don't just rely on sight. Ask yourself, what can you hear, smell, touch, or even taste? And honestly, the key here is to zero in on small, concrete details. Instead of generalizing and just saying someone looked happy, describe the specific little wrinkles at the corners of their eyes. Avoid generalizations at all costs.
I mean, just look at this quote straight from the text. People walking like ants on a hot day. This is exactly how you make the mundane completely unforgettable. A well-chosen simile like this instantly brings the scene right up to our imagination. In just 8 words, it gives us a visceral sense of scale, the sweltering heat, and that mindless, chaotic movement.
So, if I asked you to describe a chaotic scene like this packed city street from the practice paper, you couldn't just say, well, the street was busy. Your reader wouldn't feel it. Following our new rules, you describe the blaring horns, the acrid smell of the exhaust, the bright yellow and green colors of the auto rickshaws packed shoulder to shoulder. You have to build the reality detail by detail. But here's the catch. To hold all those vivid details together, staying organized is absolutely crucial. If you're describing a factory visit, for instance, you need a structured plan. Step 1, introduction, setting the scene. Step 2, the workplace, getting into the specific machines, the sounds, the smells. Step 3, general impression. What's your final emotional takeaway? Awe? Pity? Having this step-by-step plan ensures you maintain a consistent point of view from start to finish without totally overwhelming your reader.
All right, Section 3. The art of persuasion, driving action. This is where the magic happens. We take our ability to timeline events and describe them vividly, and we use those exact skills to actually change the world around us.
Because let's be real, persuasion isn't just complaining. It is a highly strategic sequence. You start with a clear statement of the situation, then move to a proposal for change, outline the likely benefits, and then, this is the real secret sauce, step 4, you logically anticipate and answer the objections of your reader before they even have a chance to make them. Then, wrap it up with a solid conclusion.
Let's look at this textbook example of a formal letter to the Chief Minister of Himachal Pradesh regarding an acute water crisis in Shimla.
We can see this exact persuasive framework playing out. The writer logically lays out the dire facts, that residents wait for hours, sometimes getting water only once in 8 days. The tone is polite, it's reasonable, but it is undeniably firm. And this is where the writer does something brilliant to strengthen their argument. They bring the receipts. Hard, undeniable data. The overall installed capacity is 65 million liters per day, and the demand is 45 million, yet the city is only getting 35 million liters. Why? Because of leaks during pumping. By vividly describing the problem and backing it up with this precise data, their proposal for change becomes completely impossible to ignore. Which brings us to our final section, putting it into practice, the final test. Let's see all of these comprehension and communication skills in action with a really funny, kind of tragicomic story from the text's practice paper.
So we meet this character, Mrs. Dohrao, and she is described so vividly by her extreme frugality. The text says she knew the value of a centime, and that spending any money at all felt like tearing at her heartstrings. Honestly, that is a brilliant piece of descriptive writing. You instantly know exactly what kind of person we're dealing with.
18 francs. That is the exact, deeply begrudged amount her husband spent on a new silk umbrella. And believe me, he endured a lot of grumbling for it. So you can only imagine how absolutely devastating it is when he brings it home the very next day with a round burn hole right in the middle from a cigar. Those 18 francs are practically ruined.
Now hold on to that, because here comes another number, 500. 500 francs is the amount of damages their chimney suffered from a fire the previous year. Now remember what we learned about persuasion and controlling the timeline of past events? Well, Mrs. Dohrao weaponizes this detail in a hilarious display of communication strategy. She literally marches right into the insurance office to demand they pay for her 18-franc umbrella. The manager, understandably, says they don't cover small everyday accidents. But look at her argument. She reaches back into the timeline and uses that unclaimed 500-franc chimney fire to confidently corner the manager. She basically says, look, I spared you a 500-franc loss last year, so you are going to cover this 18-franc umbrella. And guess what? It works. The manager is so overwhelmed by her relentless logic and unwavering point of view that he agrees to recover the cheap umbrella in top-quality silk just to get her out of his office.
She perfectly utilized time, specific details, and persuasive negotiation to get exactly what she wanted. She played them like a fiddle, which leaves me with a final, provocative thought for you to chew on. Considering how masterfully Mrs. Dohrao manipulated both logic and time to squeeze a free silk umbrella out of an insurance manager, how on earth would you structure a persuasive letter to get someone like her to willingly open her own wallet? Think about your toolkit. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll see you next time.